So maybe Angela, if we start with you.
Yeah, good morning all. So my name's Angelo Costa. I'm a business support manager at Metro Bank. And my role currently involves looking after a couple of things. So it's looking after the kind of consumer duty side of things, but also leading on the way for our virtual assistant through our chatbot. Been working with Boost now. So I took over the chatbot in January. So we launched our chatbot in May 2023. So I was involved with some of the setting up of it, but then I took lead on it in January this year. It's been a really great journey, learned a lot, and look forward to talking to you all about it today.
Great. Tracy.
I'm Tracy Sheldon. I head up continuous improvement at Ageas UK, which is one of the largest insurance companies in the country. My role is very much focused on contact centres, so how can we improve journeys, customer experience, and also operational efficiency. So any way that we can transform our journeys to make it better for customers and also create an operational and an organisational benefit, then you'll normally find me in the middle of that.
Fantastic. So this is a Q&A panel where I'll be asking some questions of yourselves. If there's anything that you want to add, please do, if I haven't necessarily aimed at you specifically. But this is all about what is important to consider when you are choosing your AI vendor, or even if you're just looking at what kind of use case that you might want to focus on. Some of you in the room are looking for an AI vendor. Some of you are already customers and thinking about how you can expand. So all important questions. Great. So I will ask the first one. It's what was important to you when you selected your AI or conversational AI vendor?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So for us, when kind of selecting a vendor at Metro Bank, the customer is everything we do, right? It's why we exist. So for us, firstly, we needed to make sure that when selecting a vendor, we had someone that truly understood what we wanted to do and could help us bring our vision to life, as well as support it. Because when Metro Bank started in 2010, it was just before the boom of neobanks, before your Monzos, your Starlings, and we started ourselves very much as a brick and mortar business. Our philosophy was based in the branch, and we did have a digital offering, but when you look at your Monzos and your Starlings now compared to where we are, they're so much more advanced. So AI was uncharted territory for us. We never really kind of looked into it until we had to. External situations, right? The pandemic happened and we found ourselves having to become a lot more better on the digital front. So that's when we kind of started looking into introducing a virtual assistant, and that's where Boost has been so helpful. The second thing, and I'm not saying it because I'm up here right now, but the system is genuinely so good. When I kind of started leading it in January, I was a newbie. I knew nothing. The support of Suna, Diego, and the rest of Boost has been really helpful. The only kind of help is only one email away. And even when I look at some of the questions I'd ask when I started compared to what I know now, some of them were so silly and so basic. But when I look at where I am now, it's due to the system. Now I'm able to, run kind of like training models. I know how to build intents, I know how to build flows, and generally just be able to optimize our bot for whatever the bank needs to do. We're compared to when we started in 2023 to now, the bank has changed, our focus has changed, and Boost have been there every step of the way to kind of help support us, and whatever the business need, they've been able to help us deliver it.
Thank you. Tracy, what do you think?
I think that there are a whole load of things that you need to think about. I think, first of all, what kind of use cases are you going to be doing now, but also in the future? So do you need a very simple tool now, but actually, as you progress and expand, you're going to want to make more use of LLMs, you're going to want to integrate and start to do transactional things. So the type and the scale of the use cases, I think, will define how complex and robust a solution you're going to want. Control over the type of answers, I think, is really important. So we've just heard Henry and Rasmus talk about that. I think one of the real beauties about the Boost platform is you have absolute control. If you want to write an answer yourself and get a very specific response for your customers, because it's important from a regulatory perspective, you can do that. If you want to let the generative AI just crack on and do, you can do that as well. And if you just want the LLMs to help speed up getting to market and help your AI trainers to become more productive and grow the content on the bot quickly, then again, that's a third option for you. So I think that level of control is important. Who's going to be owning and designing the content is also, I think, a critical decision, because for us, as a contact centre, it was really important we retained control of our own destiny. If we had chosen a solution where we needed IT involvement every time we wanted to refine and improve, that means waiting on some pretty scarce resource. Whereas if the bulk of your content is actually FAQ, wouldn't you want control of that yourselves in a contact centre without having to have technical resource attached to it? So for our AI trainers, that low, no-code environment was brilliant. They knew nothing about chatbots. We threw them into it. They learned really quickly, and they've done a brilliant job. I think probably 60% of the content that we have now is just generic FAQ. We own and control that in the contact centre. And we're the ones that will benefit the most. So therefore, we'll be the ones that will be most passionate about making sure we continue to refine and improve everything that's in there. I think a generalist AI provider or a specialist AI provider very much depends on how you feel about that. I like the fact that Boost specialises in bots. You know, bots are not a sideline for them, it's their core business, and therefore they are passionate about ensuring that their product continues to evolve at pace. And again, for us, that was really important, is having an organisation whose success depends on the quality of the bot specifically. And then costs, again, important to every organisation. I think my mind is blown every month by how much the cost sitting underneath large language models is changing. I think somebody was telling me a few weeks ago, it's probably dropped 90% on some of the ChatGPT models now, which is just mind-blowing, and again, changes from a commercial perspective how much you may or may not want to make use of the LLM capability. And I think that will only continue to reduce cost-wise over time.
Yeah. So it sounds like ease of choice, flexibility, and subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some of the summary.
Yeah.
Great. So first of all, thank you very much for saying all that.
You're welcome. Here we go. We love it.
But on to some really insightful things. So some of our customers, or prospects, shall I say, that are looking to implement their first virtual agent. Either it's the first time they're ever implementing one, or they've already tried it before, and it might have been sort of really heavy code, you know, high cost, lots of effort, et cetera, et cetera. So the question that some of the audience had wanted to ask was, where do you start building a business case? And I think I'll go to you, Tracy, for that.
Yeah. I think you need to just start with what are we trying to achieve? Because that will drive how you build and create your business case. For us, it was very much about deflecting demand from our contact centres and managing that, and also supporting our customers to self-serve. So we really took the time to understand the demand that we had coming into our contact centres from our websites. And speech and text analytics is a great way to help you really understand what are customers asking about and in what volumes, because that then lets you really focus in on where do we start, what are the things that are going to help the most customers most quickly, and lets you prioritise your backlog. So understanding your demand's important. Also thinking about how much of that demand can you realistically deflect, because there is a heavy element of consumer behaviour in here, and it depends on the profile of your customers how much you're going to achieve. So if you've got people that are digitally confident, they'll go to the web, transact there, front to back, you know, your usage of bots and that deflection will be much higher. If you've got customers who are traditionalists, slightly older, you know, might be happy to research online, but then will phone you to complete the transaction because they want that extra bit of hand-holding, you're not going to unlock as much benefit and capture quite as much of that demand through the tool. So it's just being really realistic about, you know, how are people going to respond? And I think you also need to think about not just putting in a chatbot and capturing demand there, but actually what else might you need to change in your organisation to point customers at the web, help them stay there, and then if they do phone you, how do you make them aware that they don't have to sit in a queue? if they don't want to. They can actually get themselves online. So there's quite a lot of thinking about all the other stuff that sits around it. And we probably hadn't even started to think that through when we built our original business case. And it's been part of the learning journey for us. And I think the other thing is, don't try and throw all your business cases in day one. Do enough to get your business case approved to get off and running. Learn your lessons, and then actually develop yourself an agile backlog where you're building a business case for each additional use case. Because that way, I think you protect yourselves and the business by not over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question, though, is how do you engage with your internal stakeholders and bring your colleagues on a journey? I'll go to you, Angela.
Cool. So on a very, very high level, I tend to find there are two types of stakeholders. There are those who are pushing it for it, and then there are those who are a bit more wary of it. And you can understand why they're wary of it. Again, when I look at Metro Bank and where we started compared to where we are now, we've undergone a massive transformation. So when you have those stakeholders who maybe show a bit of resistance and you start to look a bit deeper into it, you can understand why. Because, again, at a very, very high level, there tends to be two types of customers. As Tracy was talking about, there are those who are more traditional in their ways of banking. They'd rather call up the contact center, get in the car, sit in traffic, go to the branch to make a simple payment. And you get those customers who tend to want to be served in the quickest time possible in the most efficient way. So when kind of engaging your stakeholders, it's not just about bringing to the table your cost savings and your time savers, although those are great and those are massive benefits. It's about really kind of painting a picture about how introducing a virtual assistant isn't just going to give you those cost savings and time savers, but it's also going to enhance that customer journey. It's something we've seen in Metro Bank as well. So, for example, in ways we've enhanced the customer journey, we've been, and I'll talk about it a bit later, but we're now privy to so much more feedback from customers, a group of customers that we wouldn't have otherwise received feedback from. And they looking at our customer feedback, we can actually look at implementing changes that customers want themselves. And then once you start seeing the benefit of those changes, you start seeing those stakeholders who tend to be a bit more resistant, you start seeing them buy into it a bit more. And it starts getting easier when you're trying to push a bit more change on, especially on the AI side.
Great. And I know, Tracy, you're doing quite a lot of experimentation and you're really pushing the boundaries. So how have you brought your internal stakeholders along when you think of things like leveraging LLMs, et cetera, to train the bots and those kind of things?
Yeah, I think you'll have heard me already. Do not oversell. Be really realistic about what you think you can achieve, because that will get you the support that you need to move forward. I think the other piece in here for me is really think about change management with your people. When you introduce bots into places like contact centres, yes, absolutely, we're doing it for two reasons. We're doing it to improve customer journeys and increase that availability of support 24/7 for people, but we're also doing it to improve efficiency. And your people will be aware of that. So if you're not careful and you don't think through your change management process and the way that you bring your own teams on the journey, you could have a problem on your hands. So we were really, really careful about that. We wanted our teams to understand the benefits of the bot for customers, how actually it was going to make their lives easier, because we've used bots to just take up and deal with the simple, straightforward, repetitive questions and transactions for customers, so that we save our really precious people resource for where they can make the biggest difference. And actually, by taking away the simple and repetitive stuff, what's left is more interesting for people. I think the other thing is also it's opened up new career opportunities. We have teams now who knew nothing about being AI trainers, didn't have a technical skill set, and they're doing an absolutely beautiful job in terms of continuing to grow and develop the capability of the bot. We've got people in the contact centres who are now product owners for technology solutions that we'd never had before. So I think really carefully about how you bring your people with you, and also how you manage some of the more negative sentiment that may bubble to the surface, because it is a brilliant solution. It makes a massive difference. You'll have felt it as well.
100%.
But that real thoughtfulness before you commence, I think, is important to keep people's hearts and minds with you.
And I love that about opening up new opportunities for the contact center agents as well, right? We know that for quite some time there's been challenges with agent attrition, with upskilling them and maintaining that. So I think if there's other opportunities for them, then it just gives them other avenues within your business rather than hopping around. Okay, so how do you use customer insights to improve your virtual agents? Who wants to go first?
Go first, Tracy.
No, you go for it. Go on.
Cool. So being able to understand that customer journey from start to finish, being able to see the transcript of every single conversation a customer has is really important, right? On top of that, it's not just about that, it's about understanding the customer sentiment behind every message they're sending, and also being able to look at that kind of verbatim feedback that they're leaving at the end of a conversation. So I mentioned it earlier, we had a subset of customers who we'd never hear from, right? And would never have that loop of communication with, because they wouldn't call the contact center, they wouldn't go into branch, they'll do all their banking on their app. So having our virtual assistant and having that communication loop and that loop of feedback makes it a lot more easier, and it gives us a lot more data to work with. So for example, I mentioned earlier, Metro Bank isn't your Monzo, it's not your Starling. Our digital capability is not at that level, right? But there are things we're seeing now due to us having our virtual assistant. There's new feedback we're receiving. Customers have been crying out for the basic ability to change their address on the app, right? And that was feedback that was loud and clear on a daily basis. And even when I look at the kind of the CSAT of our change of address intent, we were seeing kind of CSAT around 40 to 50%. Having that feedback and having such a high volume of it allowed me to kind of take that to the relevant stakeholders, have those conversations, talk about kind of including the ability to change the address in the app. And as a result, we've now launched that. And our CSAT has gone from 40 to 50% on that intent to plus 80. It's been a really massive change, but what that basically shows is it gives us a brand new communication loop with customers we otherwise mightn't have had with. And it allows us to not only improve our virtual assistant, but it allows our virtual assistant to improve our offering as a bank and our capabilities on the app as well. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. We'll take feedback from whatever source it comes from on the basis that it helps us to continually improve what we're delivering. So our customer feedback will come directly on the bot through the feedback channels, voice of customer, speech and text analytics, contact centres, you name it, we will take the feedback from those sources. And I think the other good thing about the platform is it's also identifying opportunities for you to improve the accuracy and the success rate of the bot. So we will take the feedback from the customer success teams at Boost. I think what's really interesting, and I've not seen it with other organisations, is they will properly challenge us month in, month out about how well are you actually doing as an organisation, and they will push us to continue to push the boundaries. I think if you put a bot into an organisation, what you really need to understand is this is not a one and done project. It is something that you have to work day in, day out to maintain the success and the resolution rates that you're getting. So you will need a team of people who are passionate about what they're doing and they are hands on it daily. If you're not ready for that, don't do it. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're going to put this into an IT environment, be very, very sure that you've got the resource secured. So again, that was part of my decision for keeping it in the contact centre, because it's my resource and I can control and ensure that they have got the time and the space to make sure that the experience we're delivering to our customers is as good as possible.
Yeah, indeed. Last question, and then we'll see if we have time for audience Q&A. Okay, good. So you've mentioned a couple of different things there, Angela, which were great stats, by the way, but just to sum up, what are the key performance indicators or measures of success that you're seeing with the virtual agents?
Cool. So for us, it's 3. So the first is always going to be customer feedback. This is, directly from the customer, so we're going to use that. So we worked really hard to improve our customer kind of feedback score on our bots. So we were around the low 20s at one point, right? And again, it's having that expertise of Boost, because although they might not seem like major changes, little, tweaking the conversations, tweaking the flow, making it a bit easier, breaking up that journey, amongst other things, has seen us improve our customer score to just below 50% now, which is fantastic. When you think about the amount of interactions you receive and then the amount of interactions that actually have feedback, receiving no feedback is sometimes a good thing as well. So there's always going to be that customer feedback element first. The second is the escalation rate. So again, I talked earlier about how fantastic the platform is. It allows you to set goals on anything you want. So one of our goals we set was an escalation goal. And the way we've kind of programmed our bot is, if there's a query that's out of scope, or there's a query that's unknown because chatbot can't understand what the customer's saying, it will prompt, we've created an escalation process, and it will prompt that escalation process. We've attached that escalation goal to that process, which means every single time that process is triggered, it gets flagged as escalated. That allows us to look at it at a really high level and say, okay, currently chatbot is escalating X amount of conversations. So again, that started at 49%, and we worked really hard, and we've now got that down to 27%. And the third is conversion rate. So that's something that's more of an internal statistic, but what that is we're able to look at every single customer use chatbot, and when they call the contact center, and if that was within 24 hours, that gets flagged. That then allows us to see whether, okay, even though they might not be prompting that escalation process, that customer who used chatbot is then calling up the contact center to do exactly what they wanted to do on chatbot at first. Again, when we started tracking that was only in May this year. That figure was around 29%. We've managed to drop that down to about 14% now, which we're really happy with. Again, we're not going to sit there and stop there. We're going to try and continue to kind of reduce these figures even more. But those are kind of our three main KPIs.
Fantastic. Tracy?
Yeah, I would start with, what outcomes are you looking to drive here? So for us, again, it was very much about reducing call centre demand. So guess what? We will keep a really close eye through speech analytics on what's going in there, in what volumes. And I think it's also about helping customers to self-serve online. So again, you would look outside of bot in terms of online self-service. Net Promoter Score, Net Easy Score, really important. And I think the thing that makes me really proud, actually, is through all the digital transformation that we've achieved, one, we've got top quartile scores according to ICS in that space, and it's even higher than the contact centre. So, that's a brilliant place to be. So I think there is definitely something about the kind of outcomes you're looking for. And then in terms of the bot itself, resolution rates are critical. Now, I'm happy and I'm really delighted with a 60% resolution rate, because we made a strategic decision, which is, I don't want to replicate online self-service capability at the moment in the bot, because when I do that, I double my development costs, and every time something changes on our online self-service portal, I've got to replicate it on the bot. So I think we are not far off as strong as we possibly could be in terms of that kind of generic content without going too far into transactional. And I think the other key measure therefore is, for what we have chosen to train the bot on, how successful are we being? And we're up to about a 90% accuracy rate on that. So again, we'll just keep pushing on with that one. But I think that's not bad. I'm pretty happy, but we've got another 10% opportunity in there. Watching what people are chatting to you about and how that evolves over time is important. And I think the more you measure, the more you learn and understand, and the more opportunities to improve you will unlock.
Fantastic. And also, sorry about the noise. This event is oversubscribed, so there's a few people trying to get in many other ways they possibly can. It's a fortress, they can't. So it's not going to happen. Well, thank you very much. And I think everybody will agree, it's so many great insights that you've shared with us today. I know you're available at the breaks as well for any questions. Do we have time for one question? Anybody who's brave enough? Oh, straight at the back, instantly.
Escalation rate, and you also mentioned conversion rate as metrics. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so escalation rates will be when chatbot itself cannot deal with the customer's query due to a number of things. Could be an out of scope query, Metro Bank don't have that process in place, or the customer has misspelt so badly that our bot is unable to comprehend it. Your conversion rate will tend to be more customers. And again, it's a rate that we use internally because it could be a customer that's used chatbot to ask for their balance and then they've called the contact center within 24 hours to get a new card. It could be a number of different things. So when we get that data, we then kind of filter through the specific call reason codes and compare that to the intent that was triggered by that customer. And that effectively tells us if that customer that called up within 24 hours, if their query was related due to chatbot not being able to support them, if that makes sense. Whereas escalation itself will just show you at a very high level, this query was unable to be served, but it won't tell you why it was unable to be served.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll give you a round of applause. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.